from a power sector point of view, if today you see where the sector stands, and I have to really segregate the big issues which face as a critical bottlenecks for the investments in the power sector, whether from a domestic point of view or international strategic investors perspective. The key issues that comes to my mind are fuel constraints, the logistics challenge to transport the coal to where the projects are, the financing challenge because the capital has become more scarce, as well as some of the concerns around the inherent viability of a sector due to the financial health of our state utilities. And therefore, from these perspectives, I mean, what probably would be good if we can see in a budget something which gives a more assurance to the investors around some of the key bottlenecks. I'm sure, I mean, that there are a number of other things, but these are the big ones. And what comes to my mind, therefore, is we know government has been talking about the pool pricing for a coal to really handle the deficits around the domestic coal and to get more of imported coal into the system. And if through a budget they can provide a more clarity around this thing as a policy concept, probably that would go a long way to address one of the big concerns that investor has. On the logistics side, what I was just thinking was we had in the past come out with something called as a dedicated freight corridors. Can we really think of something like a dedicated coal corridors? So, we have in India, if you see the generation, I mean, it is clustered. I mean, you can identify clusters where the projects have come up because of advantages around the location of a state or water or some of the other things. Can we really have some dedicated coal corridors which transport coal to these cluster of projects? And this on a standalone basis could be a very viable thing where a lot of private guys would be wanting to invest, because it's a very assured sort of a revenue stream that you would have around the project. So is that something that we can look at? From a tax point, one big thing which comes to my mind is ATI benefit. We had a sunset clause that this would be available for the projects which get commissioned by March 31st, 2013. And given the current environment and the investment requirements, my expectation would be that, I mean, it needs to be continued further, and probably rather than on a year-to-year window that we have been providing over the last 3 years, probably it may be continued for about 2-3 years more at a stretch. And further, as we would see some of the consolidation in the sector, probably some of the guys coming out, one of the things would be that whether this benefit continues in case a company merges or is acquired, etc., and then that clarity would definitely help. One other thing from a capital point of view which comes to my mind is, given the current high interest rate scenario that we have, and which is one of the big concerns for infrastructure projects especially, and while we have seen or we expect some bit of a softening of the rates, but I'm not sure that what period it takes really for RBI to have that softening started, given the other concerns around the inflation, etc. Can we really think of ECB, which today can only be used for refinancing up to 40%, provided you put a 60% into a fresh expansion of a projects? And that becomes a hindrance sometimes, because today the concern is to complete the existing projects and the expansion possibility may not be very high. Can we look at some window till we at least have a more capital constraints where ECBs can be used for refinancing without a condition of greenfield sort of expansion currently, because that would go a long way again to ease out some of the liquidity constraints that our developers and the project may be facing. On the same sort of a theme on the financing and the capital constraint side, I also think that, I mean, one of the good things which the last budget did was announcement of an infrastructure debt fund, because infrastructure by nature is a long gestation period projects, and typically we have seen the average debt tenors being very low in Indian context. And therefore that scheme, I mean, I'm aware some of the infrastructure debt funds has been launched also recently. One other alternative which government may want to think of is some sort of a guarantee fund for credit enhancement of projects, because the concerns around the viability of some of these projects because of financial health of state discoms while government came out with a restructuring package to handle that issue. But probably if you have some sort of a guarantee fund for credit enhancement, which can help some of these projects, and investors' concerns are taken care of, would be really a very good way to provide them a lot of comfort. And one of the last things that comes to my mind at the top of a thing is generation-based incentives for the wind sector, which has been lapsed for about a year. And we have seen some sort of a downward sort of a trend in terms of capacity additions around wind, and that would be a one good incentive which can be really continued for the sector. So I mean, those are the big points to address: a fuel concerns, something on a logistics, and the capital and the tax side, which may go a long way for the power sector. So my key expectations from a budget this year, given the current environment: on the fuel side, if we can really put a clarity around the pooling of coal prices. B, on the logistics side, can we really think of dedicated coal corridors on the lines of dedicated freight corridors? C, on the tax side, continuation of a 80IA benefit, which is a sunset clause this year, and also to provide a clarity whether it continues if there is a merger or a consolidation process. D, in terms of some of the ECB that we currently have to use refinancing, there is a limit because you have to put a fresh expansion projects, about 60% of that. Can we really think of an alternative where that condition can be taken away for some period of time? And the last one, to really have some sort of a credit enhancement for the projects to take care of concerns around the financial health of utilities. Can we launch of some guarantee fund for the projects?